The trajectory of Benson Boone's success was not intended. Actually, the plan didn't include music at all. He was a child who aspired to design buildings rather than sing on international stages. He was also an athlete and a daredevil. However, one unanticipated high school performance permanently altered his life's trajectory. His unadulterated voice and innate talent had many comparing him to the greats almost immediately. However, Benson's American Idol career ended as swiftly as it started, with him stepping away from the limelight when everyone believed he was destined to win. Why then did a young singer who had the entire world at his disposal take such a daring chance? What impact did that choice have on all that came after? Let's investigate. The narrative of Benson Boone resembles a contemporary American fairy tale. He was raised in Monroe, Washington, in a pious Mormon household, yet he showed no discernible love for singing. In retrospect, that may not come as a huge surprise given his audacious nature and memorable performances, such as the backflip he performed off a piano at the Grammys. Boone was preoccupied with sports long before music entered the picture. He was the middle child of 5 and began doing stunts practically as soon as he could walk. He was born in June 2002. When Benson was just 3 years old, his father recalled that he was often flipping off couches and seeking ways to display his acrobatic skills. His first dream was architecture, not music. He claimed to love creating and designing as much as he loved performing, and he intended to pursue architecture and interior design in college. It wasn't until a friend asked him to play piano at their school's Battle of the Bands during his junior year of high school that music even came into his life. Boone had listened to a diverse range of musicians and practiced the piano a little as a child. Among them are Adele, Billy Joel, Aretha Franklin, and Elvis Presley. However, he had never thought of himself as a vocalist. When the band's lead vocalist left, that abruptly altered. Boone was pushed to the microphone since no one else was left to sing. His parents were likewise surprised, despite the fact that he had never performed in front of an audience. That night was the first time they had ever heard him sing a note. His mother, who was seated in the front row, broke down in tears as she heard her son's voice for the first time. The Battle of the Bands was eventually won by Boone. More significantly, though, he found a gift he was unaware he possessed. Prior to that, he regarded athletics, diving, and the outdoors as his future. However, the excitement of performance altered everything. Boone went on to say that being on stage revealed a voice within of him that he was unaware of. That one performance was the start of an entirely new journey. He then started posting music videos on TikTok. His videos quickly became popular, and ultimately, American Idol producers took notice. Boone didn't know much about the show at the time, but he thought it was a special chance. He had the ideal opportunity to concentrate on music because he had recently taken a vacation from his first semester at BYU, Idaho. Boone appeared to be a wide-eyed youngster who was in disbelief when he entered the Idol audition room. He acknowledged to Luke Bryan, Katy Perry, and Lionel Richie, the judges, that he had only been singing for a year or so. He took a seat at the piano and played Punchline by Aiden Martin. The judges were startled in a matter of seconds. In particular, Katy Perry found it hard to accept that someone with such unadulterated talent hadn't been singing all of his life. It was dubbed natural talent by Lionel Richie. Luke Bryan described it as a genuine gift. Perry even went so far as to say that Boone had what it required to win American Idol and that people would fall in love with him. Overwhelmed, Boone claimed that was the greatest compliment he had ever had. However, Boone's Idol adventure ended sooner than anticipated, despite the overwhelmingly positive reviews. Early reports of the top 24 competitors included his name. However, he was absent when the Hollywood rounds aired. What fans would soon discover was disclosed on spoiler websites. Boone had voluntarily withdrawn from the competition. Benson Boone left American Idol mostly for a straightforward reason. He didn't want to be known as an American Idol singer. It made sense when considering the show's past. Many competitors and victors felt constrained by the title and found it difficult to distinguish themselves outside of it. Boone didn't want the same formula to apply to his novel. He acknowledged that he didn't completely connect with the show, but he had nothing negative to say about it. He wasn't even certain at the time that he wanted to make a career out of music. He was uncomfortable with the idea of moving up in the competition while he was still unsure of his future. It seemed unworthy to him. He was able to determine whether music was truly the road he wanted to follow by taking a step back. Boone wanted to be recognized for his own artistic abilities rather than as someone who owed his career to a TV show. Even if he did decide to pursue music, he stated unequivocally that he wants to be known not just for being an Idol candidate, but also for writing amazing songs. His voice and the effect of his music. His risk-taking nature was evident in that choice. Whether it was through sports, jumping off cliffs, or venturing into the unknown, Boone acknowledged that he had always enjoyed the rush of uncertainty. However, the leap this time was far greater than any physical feat. Making the decision to leave Idol was a gamble with his entire future, with no guarantee of success or failure. In making that choice, his parents were crucial. Boone's mother and father were both perplexed when he called to inform them that he was leaving the show. They had little knowledge of the music business and were perplexed as to why he would pass up such a significant chance. However, people listened to him and had faith in him after he clarified that he didn't want to live out his career as an idol. He had the confidence to take the risk because of their trust. The uncertainty was agonizing, even with his parents at his side. Boone had never written a song before, and he had never tried to see whether he could truly come up with something original. He had no idea where to start or what would happen. However, he took the risk at the age of 18, believing that everything would work itself out. And it did. Imagine Dragons vocalist Dan Reynolds took notice of Benson Boone's TikTok performances shortly after his brief stint on American Idol. Reynolds suggested to work together after reaching out on Instagram. Boone consented to take a plane to Las Vegas even though he had never written any music at the time. After working together for 3 days, Reynolds was pleased with Boone's character as much as his talent. Boone packed up and relocated to Las Vegas the very following day because he was so motivated by the experience. Reynolds became a mentor and a driving force in his career after that. Reynolds finally signed Boone to his company, Night Street Records, stating that he was forced to formalize the agreement due to Boone's brilliance. Boone, on the other hand, has frequently praised Reynolds for his generosity in taking the time to help a young artist who is just starting out and described him as someone who makes others feel comfortable in their own skin. When Boone's debut single, Ghost Town, was out in the fall of 2021, it went viral right away and peaked at number 16 in 16 countries. He wrote the song when he was barely 18 years old, reflecting on his own emotional development and seeing a buddy struggle in a bad relationship. The song balanced vulnerability with soaring vocals, displaying a depth and maturity well beyond his years. Boone published In the Stars and Room for Two the next year. The latter struck a deep chord with listeners and went viral on Instagram and TikTok. The song was written in honor of his great-grandmother, who died at the age of 97. Boone gave one of his most moving performances, capturing in the words the optimism of clinging to priceless memories and the bittersweet anguish of loss. In the same year, Boone released his debut EP, Walk Me Home, an 8-track record that cemented his ascent to fame. He released the single To Love Someone in 2023 after releasing another EP called Pulse, which had 5 new tracks. However, Fireworks and Rollerblades, his debut album, was a turning point in his career. Beautiful Things, the breakthrough worldwide smash that became an independent sensation, was featured on the album. After a record-breaking 55 weeks, the song rose to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and to the top of the adult contemporary chart. Its music video, which was shot close to St. George, Utah, has received hundreds of millions of views on YouTube and won the MTV Video Music Award for Best Alternative Music Video. The 2024 releases of Fireworks and Rollerblades struck a mix between familiarity and novelty. Boone leaned into a gentle rock-pop style that was both friendly and ambitious, drawing comparisons to musicians like Sabrina Carpenter and Harry Styles. Beautiful Things are a perfect illustration of how many of the songs began as lovely ballads before developing into strong, opulent climaxes. It caught listeners off guard with its emotional weight as it transitioned from a quiet piano beginning to raw, agonized vocals showcasing his range and ferocity. The stark contrast between Boone's real life and his theatrical persona is what makes him unique. Freddie Mercury and Elton John are 2 of the major influencers on stage, seen in his striking tone changes, soaring voice, and those daring sequined ensembles. Offstage, however, Boone is very different from the gritty rock stars who came before him. He is a stoic ex-athlete who creates songs about family, talks candidly about appreciation, and abstains from alcohol and tobacco. It's a unique combination of glam rock with vulnerability, genuineness, and common humanity. However, Boone's story was about to take an unexpected turn just as his music started to gain popularity. Benson Boone made a spectacular debut on one of the greatest music venues in 2025. The first album he released, Fireworks and Rollerblades, got him a Grammy Award for Best New Artist. Even though Chappelle Roan won the award, it was still an accomplishment to be acknowledged at that level before turning 30. During the evening, Boone also gave an unforgettable live rendition of Beautiful Things, which attracted a surprising amount of celebrity attention. Boone ran his hand over Jennifer Lopez's shoulder and back as he made his way through the crowd. Throughout the evening, the two had a few amusing looks as cameras captured her grinning in return. Fans went crazy on the internet when Lopez, who was just single at the time, was subsequently spotted dancing to his performance. The internet didn't appear to care much about the age difference. The chemistry between them prompted viewers to make fast assumptions. Boone's own response to the evening backstage was a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. He said that the idea of playing in front of so many of his heroes overwhelmed him and called the nomination a fever dream. However, he also paused to think. The lesson of the previous year was straightforward for him. Continue generating music if you want to succeed, regardless of what others may think he genuinely loves. But Boone made headlines for a very other reason that same evening. He bowed and then repositioned himself on stage in a way that left the crowd in awe following an acrobatic performance that featured a spectacular backflip off a piano. The cameras captured the moment as he hurriedly attempted to play it off with another bow. When SSA's lackluster response became public, fans had a lot to say about it online. Boone later expressed regret, acknowledging that his form-fitting jumpsuit from that evening left little space for comfort. Boone returned to the Coachella stage a few weeks later, launching himself into a flurry of flips, high notes, and unfiltered passion. However, There was a stiffness in his face that made it difficult to determine whether he was experiencing anxiety, annoyance, or something else entirely. Later, when Queen guitarist Brian May joined him for an unexpected Bohemian Rhapsody cover, he took to TikTok to express his dissatisfaction with the audience, claiming they hadn't applauded sufficiently. After Pitchfork reviewed his performance, calling it one of the worst the festival had ever seen, the criticism only intensified. Boone responded to his detractors on the internet by saying that they should at least have a valid basis for their hatred. Even into the American Music Awards, the rocky stretch persisted. Boone's green suit on the red carpet, which many likened to Vice President J.D. Vance's notorious eyeliner memes, put him on a number of distressed lists. Although his stage flips attracted attention once more, his performance outfit, a disorganized combination of purple and pink, did little to alter the topic. Some on social media compared him to popular memes like the Krispy Kreme backflip vine and the berries and cream young lad. Boone had his supporters, though. Many admirers contended that his voice and work ethic spoke for themselves, regardless of what others thought of his style or theatrics. Some perceived the outcry as more bandwagon hate than sincere criticism. Whether you loved him or not, one thing was for sure. Benson Boone was skilled at keeping viewers interested. However, his personal life was taking a completely new turn while the focus remained on his flips and style. As you can see, Benson Boone has always taken care to keep his romantic relationships private. The only relationship he has publicly disclosed since his career took off is with Maggie Thurman, his long-term girlfriend. But in 2024, there was an unanticipated and humorous occurrence that burst through that barrier of seclusion. Boone saw his former middle school classmate in the crowd at a concert. In a lighthearted reminder of how far he had come since those early years, he interrupted the program to confirm her identity before laughing and sharing their brief childhood romance with the crowd. Boone's most significant public relationship has been with Thurman, aside from reports that he was also dating YouTuber McKinley Richardson, which neither party ever verified. The two made their public debut together in March 2024 at the Oscars watch party hosted by the Elton John AIDS Foundation. A few months later, Maggie shared a cute video of them strolling hand in hand on Instagram, making their relationship official. The pair appeared everywhere from the MTV VMAs to New York Fashion Week after that, giving the impression that they were inseparable. Boone freely expressed his admiration for Thurman, calling her the most charming and compassionate person he had ever met. He also highlighted how her background influenced who she is, giving her parents credit for creating a person who is so real and grounded. As a multi-talented influencer, actor, and acrobat, Thurman developed her own business. She eventually co-hosted the Wholesome Chaos podcast with her father, which aimed to motivate listeners of all ages. Boone was also creatively motivated by their relationship. His sentiments for Thurman were expressed in the song There She Goes, which was included on his debut album, Fireworks and Rollerblades. He also disclosed that near the beginning of their romance, Beautiful Things, another hit song, was penned. He expressed in that song the vulnerability of having such intense feelings for someone that the idea of losing them was intolerable, something he had never encountered before. Boone was not afraid to share with the audience on stage how much Maggie meant to him. He told the crowd that There She Goes was composed for a very special person in his life when he performed it on the first night of his global tour in Chicago. When he received an unexpected Grammy nomination in late 2024, Thurman was equally encouraging, praising him for his talent, kindness, humor, and even emphasizing how attractive he was. The duo continued to show up at high-profile events throughout 2025, including the BMI Pop Awards, the Twisters movie premiere in July, the MTV VMAs in September, and Boone's Saturday Night Live performance afterparty in May. However, rumors surfaced a few days later that the two had secretly broken up. Although neither Boone nor Thurman made any public comments, U.S. Weekly reports that the split took place during the second week of September. However, during a September 9th event in Nashville, Boone appeared to allude to the breakup. He talked to the audience about the hurt of people leaving your life before singing his song, "In the Stars," acknowledging how hard it is to dwell with that kind of loss. The song had always been therapeutic when it was being written, he explained. It was more meaningful than ever to do it that evening. Fans were startled by the split, and many of them expressed their regret and sadness on social media. However, Boone experienced a cathartic moment during the Nashville concert. He used music as a way to express his feelings, even during heartbreak, giving his audience a window into one of the most intimate periods of his life, in addition to a performance. I appreciate you watching. To stay up to speed on our most recent material, please like, subscribe, comment, and enable post notifications if you liked it.